Justin Trudeau, from teacher to prime minister. Have you ever felt the weight of expectations crushing down on you? Have you ever wondered if you could step out of someone else's shadow and become your own person? Let me tell you the story of a boy who grew up with the most famous father in Canada, a boy who watched his family fall apart in the public eye, a boy who had to decide whether to run from his last name or embrace it and use it to change his country. His name is Justin Trudeau, and this is not just a story about politics. This is a story about identity, about overcoming tragedy, about finding your own path when everyone expects you to follow someone else's footsteps, and about learning that being yourself is more powerful than trying to be anyone else. By the time you finish this story, you'll understand what it means to grow up in the spotlight, to face criticism and doubt, to lose people you love, and still keep fighting for what you believe in. You'll learn new words, new ideas, and most importantly, you'll see that your background doesn't define your future. Your choices do. Because if a ski instructor and teacher from Montreal could become one of the youngest prime ministers in Canadian history, then what's stopping you from pursuing your biggest dreams? Act 1. The Prime Minister's Son. Justin Pierre James Trudeau was born on December 25, 1971, Christmas Day, in Ottawa, Canada. But this wasn't just any birth. This was front-page news across the entire country because Justin's father was Pierre Elliott Trudeau, the charismatic, controversial, and powerful Prime Minister of Canada. Imagine being born into fame, not earning it, not choosing it, but being born into it. From his first breath, Justin Trudeau was a public figure. Photographers crowded around his mother, Margaret, as she held baby Justin on the steps of the hospital. The entire nation was watching. Justin's father, Pierre Trudeau, was unlike any leader Canada had ever seen. Pierre was intellectual, stylish, and bold. He dated celebrities. He wore a rose in his lapel. He did pirouettes behind the Queen's back. He was loved and hated with equal passion. Some Canadians thought he was a visionary. Others thought he was arrogant, but nobody could ignore him. Justin's mother, Margaret Sinclair, was young, beautiful, and free-spirited. She was 29 years younger than Pierre when they married. She became the youngest First Lady in Canadian history at just 22 years old. The couple seemed like royalty, glamorous and exciting. But behind the cameras, behind the official photos, the marriage was struggling. Justin grew up in 24 Sussex Drive, the official residence of Canada's Prime Minister. It's a grand stone mansion overlooking the Ottawa River, with security guards, servants, and constant media attention. Young Justin would play in the hallways where national decisions were being made. He would peek into rooms where world leaders gathered. But for Justin, it wasn't glamorous. It was just home. His earliest memories were confusing. He remembered his mother crying a lot. He remembered his parents arguing. He remembered feeling like something was always wrong, but not understanding what. When Justin was just 4 years old, his parents separated. This wasn't a quiet, private separation. This was a national scandal. Margaret Trudeau left her husband and children and became famous for partying at Studio 54 in New York City, hanging out with rock stars and living a wild life. The newspapers called her crazy. The tabloids were vicious. Little Justin watched all of this happen. He saw his mother's face on magazine covers with cruel headlines. He heard people whisper about his family. He felt the stares everywhere he went. One day at school, a classmate said to Justin, "Your mom is weird. Everyone says she's crazy." Justin didn't know what to say. He just walked away, fighting back tears. Pierre Trudeau fought for custody and won. Justin and his 2 younger brothers, Sasha and Michelle, went to live full-time with their father. Margaret could visit, but Pierre was now both Prime Minister and a single father. Imagine the pressure. Pierre had to run an entire country while raising 3 young boys alone. He did his best, but politics always came first. Justin later said, "My father loved us deeply, but Canada always came first. We understood that, even as children." Justin's childhood was split into two worlds. At home, he was just a kid who wanted to play hockey and go camping. But in public, he was the Prime Minister's son, expected to behave perfectly, to smile for cameras, to handshake with dignitaries. When Justin was 8 years old, Pierre took him to the funeral of Elvis Presley. Not because Pierre was a huge Elvis fan, but because it was a cultural moment, a teaching opportunity. Pierre was always trying to educate his sons, even in unexpected ways. Justin remembers standing there in Memphis, Tennessee, surrounded by thousands of crying fans, and his father leaning down and saying, "Justin, this is what happens when someone touches people's hearts. Remember this." That moment stayed with Justin forever, the power of connecting with people emotionally, not just intellectually. In 1984, when Justin was 12 years old, his father lost the election. Pierre Trudeau was no longer prime minister after 15 years in power. Suddenly, the family had to leave 24 Sussex Drive, had to leave the security, the attention, the importance. For most people, this would be devastating. But for Justin, it felt like freedom. Pierre moved the family to Montreal, and Justin could finally live a more normal life. He went to a regular school, made regular friends, played sports without security guards watching. He later said, "Losing the election was the best thing that ever happened to me as a kid. I finally got to be myself." But the shadow of his father never fully disappeared.
Act 2. Finding himself. As a teenager, Justin Trudeau was searching for his identity. He wasn't interested in politics at all. In fact, he actively avoided it. He had seen what politics did to his family: the stress, the scrutiny, the sacrifice. Justin was athletic and adventurous. He loved skiing, boxing, and being outdoors. He was also academically decent, but not brilliant. Like his father, Pierre had multiple degrees and spoke several languages perfectly. Justin was more interested in people than books, more interested in experiences than theories. His father worried about him. Pierre would say, "Justin, you have potential, but you need to focus. You need discipline. You need to read more." But Justin resisted. He didn't want to be his father. He wanted to be himself. After high school, Justin enrolled at McGill University in Montreal to study literature, not political science, not law, not economics, literature. He wanted to study stories and human nature. At McGill, Justin was just another student. Nobody treated him like the son of a famous prime minister. He could finally be anonymous. He joined the debate team. He acted in plays. He dated girls. He made mistakes and learned from them. But he also struggled with the question that haunted him: what am I supposed to do with my life? Everyone assumed Justin would go into politics, but he had no interest in it. He said in interviews years later, "I saw politics destroy my parents' marriage. I saw it consume my father. I didn't want that life." After graduating from McGill, Justin did something unexpected. He became a teacher. He moved to Vancouver, across the country from his famous family, and took a job teaching French and drama at a private school. He also worked as a snowboard instructor in Whistler, a ski resort in the mountains. Justin loved it. For the first time in his life, he wasn't Pierre Trudeau's son. He was just Justin, a teacher who made students laugh, a snowboarder who loved the mountains, a regular guy. His friends from this time remember him as fun-loving, humble, and kind. One friend said, "Justin was the guy everyone wanted to hang out with. He was never arrogant, never acted like he was special." But even while Justin was running from his legacy, tragedy was about to bring him back. Act 3. The tragedy that changed everything. In November 1998, Justin's life changed forever. His younger brother Michel went on a skiing trip in British Columbia. Michel was 23 years old, adventurous and full of life. The brothers were close. They had grown up supporting each other through their parents' separation, through the public scrutiny, through everything. Then Justin got the phone call. Michel had been killed in an avalanche. Justin was devastated. The brother he loved, the friend he trusted, was gone in an instant. The Trudeau family was heartbroken. Pierre Trudeau, who had always been so strong, so composed, was completely shattered by grief. At Michel's funeral, Pierre could barely stand. Justin had to hold his father up as they walked behind the coffin. Thousands of people lined the streets of Montreal paying their respects, but Justin barely noticed them. He was lost in his own pain. Losing Michel changed Justin. Something broke inside him, but something else awakened. He realized that life was short, that you couldn't run from who you were forever, that if you had the ability to make a difference, you had a responsibility to try. Justin later said, "Michel's death taught me that we're not guaranteed tomorrow. If you have something to contribute, you can't wait for the perfect moment. You have to act." A few years later, in 2000, another tragedy struck. Pierre Elliott Trudeau died of cancer at age 80. Justin was 28 years old, and suddenly he had lost both his brother and his father within 2 years. The two most important male figures in his life were gone. At Pierre's state funeral, which was broadcast across Canada, Justin gave the eulogy. It was the first time most Canadians had heard Justin speak as an adult. He stood at the podium in front of thousands of people in the Notre Dame Basilica and delivered a speech that was personal, emotional, and powerful. He said, "The woods are lovely, dark, and deep. He has promises to keep and miles to go before he sleeps." These were lines from his father's favorite poem, and Justin's voice cracked as he spoke them. The entire country watched as this young man said goodbye to his father with such grace and strength. After that speech, everything changed. Canadians suddenly saw Justin not as the wild child or the teacher hiding from politics, but as someone with depth, with courage, with his father's eloquence. People started saying, maybe Justin should run for office. Maybe he has something to offer. But Justin wasn't sure. Act 4. Entering the arena. For several years after his father's death, Justin continued teaching. He got married in 2005 to Sophie Gregoire, a woman he had known since childhood. Sophie was a television host, kind, intelligent, and supportive. They had 3 children together, Xavier, Ella Grace, and Adrian. Justin seemed content to live a private life, raising his family, teaching his students, staying away from politics. But people kept asking him, when are you going to run? When are you going to carry on your father's legacy? Finally, in 2007, Justin made a decision. He would run for parliament, not as prime minister, not yet, but as a member of parliament for a district in Montreal called Papineau. It was a working-class, diverse neighborhood, far from the wealthy political elite. Many people in the Liberal Party, the party his father had led, were excited. They thought Justin's name recognition would guarantee victory, but others were skeptical. They said, Justin is just a drama teacher. He has no experience. He's only running because of his last name. Justin's opponents attacked him viciously. One conservative politician said, Justin is a substitute drama teacher who has nice hair but no substance. The attack ads began. Justin is in over his head. Justin is not ready. Justin is just a pretty face. But Justin didn't back down. He knocked on thousands of doors. He talked to regular people about their problems, their hopes, their struggles. And something interesting happened. People liked him. They didn't see a spoiled rich kid or an inexperienced politician. They saw someone genuine, someone who listened, someone who cared. In 2008, Justin won his seat in Parliament. He was now a member of Parliament. But still nobody expected him to become a leader.
Act 5. The rise nobody saw coming. Justin spent his first few years in Parliament learning the system, making mistakes, and slowly building his reputation. He worked hard. He spoke in French and English fluently, switching between them effortlessly. He fought for middle-class families, for Indigenous rights, for environmental protection. But the Liberal Party was struggling. Pierre Trudeau's party, the party that had once dominated Canadian politics, was falling apart. They had lost 2 elections in a row. They had no clear direction, and many Canadians had given up on them. In 2013, the Liberal Party needed a new leader. They held a leadership race, and Justin decided to run. People laughed. The Conservative government ran attack ads showing Justin at events saying, "He's just not ready. Nice hair, though." The message was clear. Justin was too young, too inexperienced, too soft to lead a country. But Justin ran a brilliant campaign. He traveled across Canada to small towns and big cities. He spoke directly to people's concerns. He wasn't trying to be his father. He was being himself. He talked about the middle class, about helping families afford childcare, about legalizing marijuana, about welcoming refugees, about climate change. His message was simple. Canadians deserve a government that works for them, not for the wealthy few. In April 2013, Justin won the Liberal Party leadership by a landslide. He was now the leader of the third-place party in Parliament. Most people still didn't think he could win a national election. But Justin had a plan. Act 6. The Impossible Campaign. In 2015, Canada held a federal election. The Conservative Party, led by Stephen Harper, had been in power for nearly a decade. Harper was experienced, serious, and had strong support. Justin Trudeau was the underdog. Nobody gave him a real chance. The polls showed the Liberals in third place. The media questioned whether Justin was ready. The Conservative attack ads were everywhere. Justin is in over his head. But Justin ran the kind of campaign that political consultants said was impossible. Instead of avoiding tough questions, he answered them directly. When asked about legalizing marijuana, which was controversial, he said, "Yes, I support it. I've smoked marijuana, and I think our current laws don't work." His honesty shocked people. Most politicians would dodge that question, but Justin leaned into it. When asked about his experience, he said, "I'm not my father. I'm not going to pretend to be. I'm Justin, and I'm ready to fight for you." He held town halls where anyone could ask anything. He went on comedy shows. He posted on social media. He was everywhere. And slowly, very slowly, the polls started to change. Then something unexpected happened. During the campaign, there was a terrorist attack in Paris. Justin was asked if Canada should stop accepting Syrian refugees. Most politicians would have said yes, let's pause and reconsider for safety. But Justin said no, we will not close our hearts to people fleeing violence. Canada will welcome refugees because that's who we are. His opponents called him naive, dangerous, soft on security. But many Canadians saw courage, they saw compassion, they saw leadership. On election night, October 19, 2015, the results shocked the world. The Liberal Party won a massive majority government. They went from third place to first place in one election. Justin Trudeau, at age 43, became the 23rd Prime Minister of Canada and the second youngest in Canadian history. That night, Justin stood on stage with Sophie and his children and said, "Sunny ways, my friends, sunny ways." He was quoting his father, but the message was his own. Optimism over fear, hope over decision. The boy who grew up in the shadow of his father had just stepped into his own light. Act 8. The Global Star. When Justin Trudeau became Prime Minister, the world took notice. Suddenly, Canada had a young, energetic, photogenic leader who spoke about feminism, diversity, and climate change. Justin appointed Canada's first gender-balanced cabinet. When reporters asked why, He simply said, because it's 2015. That clip went viral around the world. Justin welcomed Syrian refugees personally at the airport. He marched in pride parades. He spoke about mental health and his own struggles with grief after losing his brother. He lifted up indigenous voices and apologized for historical wrongs. The international media fell in love with him. Rolling Stone magazine put him on the cover with the headline, "Why Can't He Be Our President?" Vogue profiled him. Barack Obama called him a friend. But here's what many people don't understand. Being popular is not the same as being effective, and Justin was about to learn that lesson the hard way. Act 8. The Controversies and Criticism. As Prime Minister, Justin made mistakes, some small, some large, and the media that had once celebrated him turned critical. In 2018, photos surfaced from years earlier showing Justin wearing brownface and blackface at costume parties. Justin had to apologize publicly. He said, "I deeply regret my actions. I should have known better. I am sorry." His critics said, "See, Justin is all image, no substance. He's a hypocrite. He talks about diversity, but look what he did." Justin took responsibility, but the damage was done. Many people who had supported him felt betrayed. Then there were political scandals. Justin was accused of pressuring his attorney general to help a corporation avoid prosecution. An ethics investigation found that Justin had violated ethics rules. The media that once called him Canada's golden boy now called him entitled, arrogant, corrupt. Justin's popularity dropped. He went from being the fresh new face of politics to being criticized constantly. Some of it was fair, some of it wasn't, but it was relentless. In the 2019 election, Justin's Liberal Party lost their majority. They stayed in power, but barely. It was a humbling experience. Then in 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic hit, and everything changed.
Act 9. Leadership in Crisis. When COVID-19 reached Canada, Justin faced the biggest test of his leadership. The entire country shut down. Businesses closed. People died. Fear spread everywhere. Every morning, Justin stood outside his home and gave press conferences to the nation. He spoke calmly, clearly, and with empathy. He announced financial support for people who lost their jobs. He promised that Canada would get through this together. His approval ratings went back up. People saw a leader who was present, who cared, who was trying his best in an impossible situation. But the pandemic also brought more criticism. Some said Justin acted too slowly. Others said he was too strict. There were protests, vaccine mandates became divisive, and Justin's handling of them made some Canadians angry. No matter what he did, someone was upset. That's the reality of leadership, especially in a crisis. By 2021, Justin called another election, hoping to win back his majority. He didn't. The Liberals won again, but still without a majority. Canadians were tired of elections, tired of politics, and many were tired of Justin. Act 10. The man behind the politics. So who is Justin Trudeau really? Beyond the politics, beyond the fame, beyond the criticism. People who know him personally describe him as warm, funny, and genuinely caring. His friends say he remembers birthdays, asks about your family, and listens when you talk. He's a devoted father. His 3 children are his priority. He boxes for exercise to clear his mind. He loves Star Wars and quotes it in speeches. He cries openly when he's moved and doesn't hide his emotions. But he also has flaws. He can be defensive when criticized. He sometimes speaks before thinking carefully. His privileged upbringing makes it hard for him to fully understand working-class struggles, even though he tries. Justin once said, "I don't expect everyone to agree with me. I just ask that you believe I'm trying to do what I think is right." That honesty is both his strength and his weakness. People respect authenticity, but they also want results. The lessons from Justin's life. What can we learn from Justin Trudeau's journey? Here are the most important lessons.
Lesson 1. You cannot escape your past, but you can define your future. Justin grew up as Pierre Trudeau's son, and that shaped everything about his life. But he didn't let that define him. He became a teacher, he traveled, he lived his own life. And when he finally entered politics, he did it on his own terms. Your background influences you, but it doesn't control you. You choose who you become. Lesson 2. Grief can be a teacher. Losing his brother Michel and his father Pierre broke Justin's heart, but it also opened his eyes to what matters. He stopped running from responsibility and started embracing purpose. When you lose someone you love, you realize that life is precious and time is limited. Use your time to make a difference. Lesson 3. Authenticity beats perfection. Justin made mistakes, the brown-face photos, the ethics violations, the broken promises, but he stayed authentic. He apologized when he was wrong. He showed emotion. He admitted he didn't have all the answers. People would rather follow someone real than someone perfect. Lesson 4. Criticism is the price of leadership. When Justin became prime minister, he went from beloved to controversial in just a few years. The same people who cheered for him turned against him. This happens to everyone who leads. If you want to make change, you have to accept that some people will hate you for it. Don't let criticism stop you, but do listen and learn from it. Lesson 5. Privilege requires responsibility. Justin was born into wealth, fame, and opportunity. He could have lived an easy, private life, but he chose to serve. He used his platform to fight for others. If you have advantages in life, you have a responsibility to help those who don't. Lesson 6. Be yourself, not who people expect you to be. For years, people expected Justin to be Pierre 2.0, another intellectual, cold, brilliant policy mind. But Justin wasn't that. He was warmer, more emotional, more focused on people than policy. When he stopped trying to be his father and started being himself, that's when he succeeded. The Trudeau effect on Canada. Love him or hate him, Justin Trudeau has changed Canada in significant ways. He legalized marijuana, making Canada only the second country in the world to do so. He brought in a carbon tax to fight climate change, even though it's politically unpopular. He welcomed hundreds of thousands of refugees and immigrants when other countries closed their borders. He appointed Indigenous people to powerful positions. He spoke openly about mental health, reducing stigma. He legalized medical assistance in dying for terminally ill patients. He fought for LGBTQ rights internationally. But he also promised electoral reform and didn't deliver. He promised clean drinking water for Indigenous communities, and many still don't have it. He promised transparency, but had ethics violations. Justin's legacy is complicated. He inspired millions, especially young people, to care about politics again. But he also disappointed many who believed he would be different from other politicians. The truth is, Justin Trudeau is human. He has done good things and made serious mistakes. And that makes him like most leaders: complex, flawed, trying. What the critics say. It's important to hear both sides of Justin's story. Supporters say Justin is compassionate, progressive, and represents a modern Canada that values diversity. They say he listens, he learns, he fights for the middle class and marginalized communities. They believe his heart is in the right place, even when his execution is imperfect. Critics say Justin is all style, no substance, a privileged trust fund kid who doesn't understand real struggle. They say he's a hypocrite who lectures others about ethics while breaking ethics rules himself. They say he divides Canadians with his policies and doesn't respect people who disagree with him. Both perspectives have some truth. Justin is complicated because people are complicated.
The future.
As of 2024, Justin Trudeau is still Canada's Prime Minister, but his future is uncertain. Polls show many Canadians are ready for change. The Conservative Party is gaining strength, and there's talk that Justin might not run in the next election. Some say he's accomplished what he set out to do and should step aside. Others say he still has more to give. Only time will tell, but one thing is certain. Justin Trudeau's story is far from over. Whether he remains Prime Minister for years or leaves office soon, his impact on Canada and his journey from teacher to leader will be studied for generations. The final words. Justin Trudeau's life teaches us that success is not a straight line. It's messy, complicated, and full of setbacks. He grew up with everything: privilege, fame, opportunity, but also with pain, loss, and impossible expectations. He could have hidden from the spotlight and lived a quiet, comfortable life, but he chose to step forward, to try to lead, to risk failure and criticism in pursuit of something bigger than himself. On Christmas Day, 1971, a baby boy was born into Canada's most famous family, and the entire country wondered what he would become. The answer is still being written. But this much is clear. Justin Trudeau showed us that you don't have to be perfect to lead. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to care deeply, work hard, stay authentic, and keep trying even when people doubt you. He showed us that your last name might open doors, but your character determines whether you walk through them. He showed us that grief can break you or transform you, and the choice is yours. And most importantly, he showed us that the son does not have to become the father. He can become himself, and that's enough. Justin once said, "Canadians expect their Prime Minister to be a good person, someone who shares their values, someone who understands their struggles, and someone who will fight for them." I try every day to be that person. Whether he succeeded is for history to decide, but he tried, and sometimes trying with everything you have is the most important thing. As you think about your own life, your own challenges, your own path forward, remember this: if a drama teacher and snowboard instructor who grew up in his father's shadow could become Prime Minister of Canada, then your past doesn't determine your future. Your choices do. What will you choose?